So Matthew Fleming, I've worked at Triton for 5 years, or around 5 years, and I look after sort of data. Triton is a sort of it's a private equity company, and we've got 25 years experience, and we invest heavily in the Nordics across three main sectors, which are business services, industrial tech, and healthcare. And we've been using Frends for around 4 years now. So we're fairly grounded in using Frends, and we've got a good team that we work with at Frends. We'd implemented some downstream systems using legal entities, and I was thinking about how we could automate the flow of legal entities across all of our systems and track them as they flow downstream. So I started thinking about how we could sort of use AI, how I could potentially build something out using Frends, using a Frends skill that would automatically create and deploy the processes. And what I wanted to do was to see whether it was possible to build an end-to-end application, not just creating a nice looking UI, but also creating an application that inherited all of the work we've done at Triton. So by pointing Claude at all of the Frends documentation, downloading all of our processes and all our API specifications, and then creating that skill that learned from all of that context. And the entity management app was basically going to give us that canonical model that allowed us to track the flow of legal entities out of our entity management systems into a tool that allowed us to visualize and then downstream into our fund accounting, our ERP, our expense management application. I suppose the long-term goal was actually to see, could we use the tooling that we have to democratize the building of applications? Would it be possible to give people outside of technology the ability to create applications and deploy them and test them and then fail fast? AI is very powerful, but we need to make sure that we wrap those controls around it. And if we think about that in traditional development cycles, that would take ages, right? We would take us weeks to build something, then realize it's not quite what we want to do, and then start from over again. And that's something that would take weeks, we can now do in hours. There's within Visual Studio Code, using all of the extensions, makes it very easy to give the context of SQL, of Azure, etc. for deployments. And then using Frends, using the Frends documentation, and getting to understand the Frends APIs as well. It delivered what we wanted, or what I wanted to do. And sort of proved out how we could sort of potentially take that forward. It saves a significant amount of time around sort of development and, having to write down requirements, give those to a developer. The developer will take them, do the implementation, then hand it back to someone who would do the UI work. That's some quite significant savings. I think in the demo I had from prompt to process in 60 seconds. I think the prompt takes about 5 minutes to run. But if you think what it's doing in 5 minutes, it's creating SQL, it's creating the Frends processes, it's creating that React front end, and it's spinning it all up so you can have a look.